Hello, hello, hello. If you have ever wondered about mystery ingredients in foods and what they might be doing to your body, you are going to want to listen to this show. I'm Jane Hogan. I'm the wellness engineer and natural pain relief expert, and I worked as a real engineer for 30 years until physical pain from rheumatoid arthritis told me I had to make a change. So I hung up my hard hat, followed my heart, and one of the things I do now is this show Wellness by Design, and it's all about helping people rather than reacting to the world around them, intentionally creating a life based on what their own body needs so they can become the best version of themselves and live life the way you want to live it. And my guest today is holistic nutritionist Mira Dessy. So Mira, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Jane. I'm so excited to talk about this.
I'm so excited to have you here. Ever since I found out you are the ingredient guru, and I know that, if we could just eat whole foods all the time, we would be so much better off. But the reality is that so many people buy food products and but don't really know what's in them. So I'm really excited, especially one in particular that you and I talked about a few weeks back, and I'm excited to tell people about it today because they probably don't know. So I'm going to read your bio now. Mira Dessy is the ingredient guru, a holistic nutrition professional, author, and a popular public speaker. She knows that it's not just what you eat, but it's what's in what you eat. Yeah. Mira is a board certified holistic health practitioner who has been working with clients for over 12 years. She is a member of the National Association of Nutrition Professionals, the Society for Nutrition Education and Behavior, and the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. Additionally, she is on the board of directors for the American Holistic Health Association and is a member of the Professional Advisory Board for the Turner Syndrome Society. She can be found online at The Ingredient Guru. I'm so excited. My goodness, what a load of credentials you got there, Mira.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've been doing this for a while, and really the most important thing is not the string of organizations that I belong to that come after my name, but the fact that, to help people find what they need to know to make these changes. Because honestly, it's so confusing and it's so difficult to find. And that's sort of how I wound up becoming the ingredient guru, because I was so frustrated about it myself and then realized that other people probably felt the same way.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say they're confused. They're confused. There's so much information and there's contradicting information, which is really frustrating. Like we really have no limit on the amount of information available, right? There's tons of information with the internet, like everything is there, but how do you know what to trust? So I'm really happy to have someone like you here who is so knowledgeable on all these ingredients and how they affect our health.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit, it was your own journey that took you to this, because all of us, it seems like all of us in this holistic space have a personal journey, either ourselves or someone close to us. So what's your story?
Sure. So my journey actually, funny enough, I used to be in a completely different field. I was a database administrator for an international research firm. And I got very sick. I mean, to make a long story short, I became so ill. I was living my life practically on the sofa. If I wanted to walk up the stairs, I had to, I kid you not, lie down at the top of the stairs, rest, recover, and then crawl my way to bed. I was horrible. I wasn't able to live my life. And over a period of time, I wound up being diagnosed with a number of different autoimmune disorders. Yeah. And I think one of the most fascinating things to me in hindsight is that aside from my gastroenterologist who sent me to a nutritionist who made a few recommendations, nobody talks to me about my food. And I wound up going for something called an executive checkup at a major medical hospital. And an executive checkup is where they bring a slew of doctors to examine you. All the doctors agree to be on your team for the time that you're at the facility. And so every day they just add in more and more doctors to the conversation at the end of the day, and everybody shares all their information. And then you have a gateway doctor who coordinates care. So I went home with a whole bunch of information. More importantly, I went home empowered to speak up for myself as part of the conversation. And I then had a friend who gave me a book that talked about artificial dyes and what they do to our brain. And I went, what? And then I start, and here's the funny thing. My friends used to say, oh, you're like the healthiest eater I know. We belong to a CSA. We belong to a pick your own place. I made literally, I am kidding you not, all of our bread, all of our jam, all of our pickles. Like I made it all by hand. But we still had Captain Crunch and Juicy Juice and things like that in our pantry. So we had no idea. I mean, I probably ate cleaner than 80% of the people, and I wasn't eating that clean at the time. And as I began to look through my pantry and see what was in there, all of a sudden, I wasn't just looking at the nutrition panel. I was looking at the ingredients and going, what is that? What does that do? And then, as I began to learn more, I made changes. I began to get better. And then finally, I turned to my husband one day and I said, I think I've taught myself everything I can. I have to go back to school. And I did. So I went back to school and became a nutrition educator. And that was, that was my journey towards becoming the ingredient guru.
Wow. Wow. What a journey. So many people have either a diagnosed autoimmune condition, and then there's many more who are on the spectrum and they don't know what it is. They don't have a diagnosis, but they know they don't feel well, but they don't get any answers. They don't get any answers. And I think people are becoming more aware that their food matters, but I don't think people really realize that, even though they are eating healthy, and I was the same way, that there's so many crappy things in food products that are really hard on our bodies, and we can only take so much, right? Our bodies want to be healthy, but if we keep firing all this stuff in, then our bodies can't be healthy. So when you make the changes, I remember, I can't remember what doctor said it, but I remember hearing a doctor say, your health will improve far more by what you don't eat than what you do eat. So it's things that you don't put in. But awareness is always the first step, right? And that's where the teaching that you're doing, you're obviously so passionate about it, Mira. The teaching that you're doing can really help people because you're creating awareness, right? When you talk about reading ingredients, that's one of the first steps of becoming aware of what's in your food.
Well, and one of the most important parts to remember is, food producers spend so much money every year on trying to figure out how to manipulate us to buy their product. And so, we're already fighting an uphill battle because they have all the buzzwords on the front. They know what colors, they know how to, here's a perfect example. Chips started going from a bag to a can. Now there's lots of potato chips that you can buy that are in a can. And then what they discovered is if they made it an hourglass shaped can, you wouldn't set the can down because it feels so comfortable in your hand. And if you're still holding it, you're going to eat more. So things like that, things like looking for what's called the bliss point. What is the absolute perfect point of salt, sugar, and fat to fire up our neurotransmitters to make us go, yum? There's that joke about, I think is it Doritos? Bet you can't eat just one or something like that. And the answer is you literally can't, because if it gets in your mouth, it hits your brain like that. And your body's like, ooh, more, please. Yeah. Even though it has no nutrition whatsoever.
Yeah. And then people are, like you said, they're fighting an addiction. Like it really is an addiction because we're getting releases of the same hormones that drugs release. And they're wondering why they can't just stop. Why can't they only have one? It's because the food's been designed to be addictive, and then and this awareness. And then the other thing is social situations. So many social situations revolve around, let's get together and have this food. It's always around some kind of food that's not always a healthy food.
Well, and even more than that, one of the things that I think is really challenging, we grow up as humans learning, obviously we eat. And if we're fortunate, we get to eat 3 times a day. but we learn how to feed ourselves, not how to nourish ourselves. And there is a big difference between the two.
Yeah.
So when we're sitting there and we're in a social situation and someone says, "Hey, want a piece of cake?" And you're like, "No, thank you." And they're like, "Oh, come on. Like,
Yeah.
you're so boring. A piece of cake is not going to kill you." Well, here's the thing. No, a piece of cake probably isn't going to kill you, but it's about making those daily choices to choose to nourish your body instead.
Yeah.
And so, for example, I was recently in a situation where there was food with a very small group of people, and there were cookies and a pie. And I brought a gluten-free almond banana bread. And someone said, "Oh, want a cookie? They're delicious." And I'm like, "No, thank you." And they're like, "Oh, you're just going to be good, aren't you?" You know, because I have a little bit of a reputation, which
Yes,
is,
I understand.
and I was like, "Oh, no, you know what? I'm choosing not to eat that, but I brought this really delicious banana bread with me. So I am happy to have a sweet with you." And so here's the really funny thing. There was pie left over. There were cookies left over. There was no banana bread left over at the end of the gathering.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is once you learn these different swaps, it doesn't seem so bad, but it's really hard when you're not prepared to
Yeah,
say no to that cake or say no to that cookie. But when you've got an alternative, then it makes it a little bit easier. And then at the end of the day, you kind of go, I made a good choice. I made better choices for myself today. I
sure.
nourished myself with food that's worthy of me, not food that's not worthy of me. So it's a totally different mindset, right?
Absolutely. Well, and I think part of it also is learning to be in tune with our body and how we feel. You know, like you were mentioning, there's a lot of different health issues, and sometimes the expression of how our body impacts our food is so varied that we don't really pay attention to it, you know. And so people sometimes don't remember to stop and think, "Gee, I sneeze every time I eat that food." You know, we
Yeah.
just go, "Oh man, I'm really sneezy today." And
Yeah.
so if we stop and go, "Well, wait a minute." So keeping a food journal is a great way to then look back and see what happened or how you feel. Or if you have certain physical symptoms, you know, headache, itchy, rashy, bloat, aches, whatever. Like if you have something going on, journal that and see where that's happening. And there's an awful lot of times where it turns out that it's connected to what we're putting in our body.
Yes, yes, Mira. I love that you talked about the journaling. It's so important. And
Yeah.
another thing is people may not be associating things they're eating with something like a rash or something that they're eating with having sneezes or sniffling. Like I still will get a runny nose with certain foods. And I go, oh, okay, there's something. Then after a while, you can kind of narrow down when you're tracking, you can narrow down, well, what is it? What is it that's doing that? For years, I used to, I was a throat clearer all the time till I cut out dairy. And then I realized that's what was causing it. I thought it was just a
Sure.
family trait.
Well, and so here's the really funny thing. You know, I remember working with a client, and we started doing an elimination diet because, you know, we were just trying to figure out some of what was going on. And it was so fascinating to me that at one point, one of our meetings, the client said to me, "I never realized how much my shoulders hurt until I took corn out of my diet." So they were getting large joint inflammation
Yeah.
from eating corn.
Wow. Wow.
And they didn't
So,
know that until they removed it. And then we did a challenge and they put it back in, you
yeah.
know, because it's kind of like, we remember in biology in high school, we all learned that whole thing about the frog in the hot water. You know, you put it in a pot and you slowly turn up the heat and the frog will boil to death because if you're gentle enough about how you turn up the heat, it doesn't know that it's cooking in there. Well, our bodies are the same way. We're eating things and it's happening all the time. And it's not until you remove what's going on and then try it again, and all of a sudden the response seems exaggerated. And maybe it is exaggerated, but it may also simply be because you're not constantly living with it anymore, that you have a deeper awareness of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that all the time with my clients and women in my wonderful fine group as well. Eliminate something for a while, and then when they bring it back, it's like, oh, wow, like how did I not know? I've been eating this food every day for years. And
Right.
now what a difference, joint pain is gone, for example, or skin rashes are gone. So it's quite amazing when you start paying attention, but that is it, paying attention. I know we got some people watching live. So if you have a question for Mira, feel free to post it in the comments and we can answer it. Or Mira can answer it. So let's get on. I know you and I were talking about one food in particular, and I don't know if you want to start with this, Mira, talking about that food, or if you want to talk about reading ingredient labels all in general. Where do you want to go with it?
Well, so I guess the most important thing that I would like to say is that I think for everybody, it's really important to begin to learn to read the label.
Yes.
And not just the nutrition facts. I'm talking the ingredient panel down below, because that's where the information about what's in your food is. Most people skip that. And when you start to look at that, you really begin to realize that there's a lot of non-nutritive things in there. And sometimes I get clients all the time who go, why is this in the food?
Yeah.
Because it's better for the manufacturer. It makes it shelf stable, or it does something that they want to the food. There's no nutrition whatsoever. So learning to read that, it doesn't mean you have to read every single label on every single grocery trip. Nobody wants to spend 5 hours in the grocery store.
Yeah.
But, to pick something and just begin to read those labels and learn how to make those shifts. And you can even start by simply reading the labels on things that you already have in your home and pick something and say, next time I go to the grocery store, I am not buying this product. I'm going to find something like this that doesn't have something in there. Oh, and Margie says, I ate some homemade bread after being gluten-free for 3 years and my joints are killing me. Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously you have some sort of gluten sensitivity and you had a very high level of inflammation that happened after that. I'm so sorry for that. And it will subside over time.
Yeah, I've been gluten a few times too. And it's like, oh yeah, when it happens, the good thing is you know that you've reduced your inflammation before and you can do it again. The
Absolutely.
other good thing is it's such a good lesson that it really makes you understand that that's not a food that's worthy of you, right?
Right.
So hard lesson, but hope you're feeling better soon, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So
she said, yeah, I'm thinking that's it. It probably is. Gluten is one of those highly inflammatory foods.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so gluten is one, we know that, and people are pretty aware of that one, although it takes a bit of convincing sometimes for people to realize that it is inflammatory for them. It takes cutting it out and adding it back in, seeing what happens, like with Margie, where you get that joint pain. So what else would you say is the top foods for people to look for on ingredient labels, or maybe it's not the top ones, maybe it's something small?
Oh, there's a lot of things to watch out for. I think my top 3, if you will, are artificial anything. So artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners. It's artificial. It was created in the lab. It does absolutely nothing for your body. So if that word artificial is anywhere on the ingredient panel, put that product back on the shelf.
And our body doesn't know what to do with it, right? So it might choose to mount a inflammatory campaign against it. So in which case we get inflammation in our body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing is I find that a lot of people are sensitive to MSG and they don't realize how much MSG is still in our food. As a matter of fact, one of the things that really annoys me to no end is when a manufacturer will put no added MSG on the front of a package, but when you flip it over, there's an MSG analog. It's autolyzed something or hydrolyzed something, and it's a product that, it's an ingredient that in some way expands and has that same impact as monosodium glutamate, which has been referred to as an excitotoxin. It overstimulates our brain. So I encourage people to either get my book, The Pantry Principle, because it's in there, or to look it up, and see what some of the other names for MSG are so that you can learn to begin to avoid those. And then the next one is the one that you and I talked about, carrageenan. I just feel that carrageenan is so bad for us. And it's made from a red seaweed. We've been taught that seaweeds are good. Not all seaweeds are equal. And the problem with carrageenan is it is a very, very efficient emulsifier. It makes things stay together. It's also a thickener. And so it appears in so many different products. The challenge is it can cause ulcerative colitis-like symptoms in the gut. In laboratory studies, it has been shown to cause renal bumps. That's bumps on the kidneys, not a good idea. And there are so many people who really, when they give up the carrageenan, they discover that all of a sudden they're not bloating anymore. They're not as gassy. They don't have some of the stomach discomfort that they had. Yeah. And the biggest problem is it's in virtually every single aisle of the grocery store. So you really have to read the labels to avoid it. It's most commonly found in alternative dairy products.
Oh, yeah. So some people think, well, I'm not having dairy, so I'll have this. And it's got the carrageenan in it. Yeah. And it's one of those kind of tricky ones because it is a natural product, right?
Yes.
So it's not an artificial product, but it's still, I say this to people a lot. A lot of these gluten-free products and different products that you buy have thickeners in them. So it may not be gluten, but if they're putting the thicker in them, like it could be carrageenan, it could be like guar gum, any of those things, thickeners don't do well in our gut in general. They really don't. They cause problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them, so things like guar gum, locust bean gum, that sort of thing, those are not necessarily bad for you. The challenge is because they're so good at thickening and giving us that mouthfeel that we're missing from not having full fat dairy, we may be over consuming them. And that becomes part of the problem because the way those gums work is by drawing moisture into the gut. And so if you're not hydrated enough, you can wind up being constipated because you don't have enough. If you are well hydrated, you might get diarrhea because it's pulling too much into the gut. And then it can also cause inflammation just because you're being overexposed. You know, if you think about it, when these gums are used to thicken so many things and you're on a dairy-free plan or you're, eating certain foods that have it, you could be eating it 3, 4, 5 times a day. And while the guidelines say that so much is okay for you, who's keeping track of how much you're eating? Nobody.
Yes. And with certain conditions too, like I had small intestine bacterial overgrowth or SIBO. And with that, like guar gum is,
Oh yeah, no, if you have digestive,
good, right? But I didn't know it. And people think they're having something healthy like coconut milk. But when it's got the thickeners in it, it's not necessarily healthy for you. And I think all of this is often, we know chemicals, things like that aren't great for us. But a lot of times it's figuring out what's right for you. We're all different, right?
Right.
So paying attention, doing the food journal, watching your reactions, as you said, and then challenging the food by bringing it back in again, see how your reactions are. It's such a great, simple suggestion, Mira, that people can do on their own. I mean, they can work with someone like you or me to do that as well, but they can do it on their own and figure these things out. So it's such helpful advice. Okay, you mentioned, we talked about carrageenan and where to find it in food. This acronym, GRAS, GRAS. I guess, is that what you call it? GRAS.
Yep. So
I haven't heard that before.
GRAS stands for generally recognized as safe. Yep. And so that's something that the United States government has created, as part of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, to allow certain things into the food supply. There's a bit of a challenge with that, however, because the FDA does not itself look at the process of those ingredients in the food. They rely on the food producer who wants to use that ingredient to say, oh, we've consulted our experts and they say it's okay up to a certain amount. And so the FDA either says yes, or they say yes, but you have to have some kind of a color warning because of possibly something that it's made from or how it's processed, or it winds up being withdrawn. So
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing though, it's not infallible. And the example that I point to, just because it's the one that's easiest for people to look up on their own, is trans fats.
Okay.
So trans fats are where they take a liquid fat and they hydrogenate it so that it is stable at room temperature, roughly. It may have to be refrigerated or whatever. So if you look at the food label and you see the words hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, that tells you it's a trans fat. Trans fats are really bad for our body. Our body does not know how to process them. As little as 2 grams of trans fat have been shown to start to have some sort of cardiovascular impact on the body. They were generally recognized as safe. And then several years ago, it was found to no longer be generally recognized as safe, but it is not banned from the food supply. So it's still in there.
So it's not even GRAS generally
It's
recognized,
not GRAS
but it's
anymore.
still
It
there.
was, but yeah. And so you can't, the thing is, even if it's, so you may look things up, or, if you go to a food producer's website and they list their ingredients and they'll say, this is generally recognized as safe, kind of thing. Well, that's great, but that's because they paid somebody and did the research and they decided it was okay and the government agreed with them. You really have to do more research. And, like I said, I talk about a lot of things in my book, or there are other resources that people can find to look into. I do publish a free weekly newsletter where I share all the stupid stuff they do with our food. And so just, yeah, right. But just to take the time to look it up for yourself. If you don't understand it, you shouldn't be eating it. And I personally do not believe you should need a degree in biochemistry in order to be able to shop at the grocery store.
Yeah. Oh, Mira, like I think we could talk for hours, but I think great suggestion there. You said you do this weekly newsletter and your book. That would be awesome for people to access. So I'm going to share all those links.
Okay,
And I
great.
know you've got a gift that you want to
I
give people,
do.
which is listen to this. Mira's going to give you free access to her book club. It's called the Healthy Readers Book Club for a full year if you want to sign up. So I'm
Yeah.
going to share that link with you. Let me see. You have to enter a coupon code.
Yeah.
I'll share it in the notes afterwards, in the comments afterwards, so people can sign up. And where else can people find you, Mira?
So I am online at theingredientguru.com. I'm also on Instagram as the Ingredient Guru. So those are 2 really good places to catch up with me. And I love my book club. I will say we read 10 books on health, wellness, nutrition, environmental stuff, whatever. We are for this month, we are currently reading a book called Forest Bathing: How Trees Can Help You Find Health and Happiness. But we read 10 books a year, and then we also have a monthly discussion. I also annotate the books, so I go through and I find other research, or I share other information about the book and about what we're doing. So it's pretty interactive, and I'm just excited to have
Wow.
your people joining in the book club for 1 year, and
So
hopefully they'll
nice.
stay after that because they'll love it, but definitely for a year to be part of the club.
All right, I might join too. I'm always reading stuff, but I love having discussions about it as well. I got a book club in
Yeah,
my wonderful Fine group, but it's it's just so there's so much great reading out there, so much to learn. So
absolutely.
I always have one last question, and that is, what's one action someone could take today to improve their health? So what's your suggestion, Mira?
Mine really is very simple and very straightforward. Read the label.
Read.
That's where the power to take back control of your pantry, your kitchen, your food source really is. Not just the nutrition facts, but like read the whole thing and read those ingredients. And you will be able to make such a huge difference in
Yes.
terms of how you're supporting yourself and those you love and nourishing everyone's body.
Mhm. Love that, Mira. So empowering once we start realizing what's in there,
Yeah.
and then we're the ones making a choice of whether to have that and provide it for our families or not. So thank you so much for that, Mira. And thank you so much for being my guest today on Wellness by Design. I know this has been such a valuable resource for our audiences. And I'm just really thankful that you came on here and shared your years of experience with ingredients. So thank you very much.
Thanks. It was great to chat with you, Jane.
Okay, bye. And
Take
thanks for
care.
everyone for tuning in. Bye.